Hey, what's up, guys? Continuing the comics of the losers, which will continue in 2021 on BitChute. I found this in one of the two comic stores I go to, which is more of the back issue place. The other place I go to has the new comics. This one has more of the back issues, and they always have new back issues. Whenever I check these shelves, there's always new stuff, back issues and stuff. And this is in the war section. They actually have a war section. I found a lot of good stuff in there, Vietnam journals and whatnot. And we have a very European comic. We got a Frenchman and a Spaniard here. The Red Baron. Beautiful artwork, like photorealistic painted art. And what is this about? There's actually three of these. I got two because I got this one, the third one, because of well, I'll show you why. And it's a work of fiction, extremely loosely inspired by the life of Manfred von Richthofen. Well, yeah, this is basically like the Red Baron if he fought almost the whole war by himself. He's like on every front, and he fights every kind of soldier and weapon, while also being hunted by jealous other pilots in the Imperial German Air Force, or whatever it was called. You'd think I'd know what that would be called, but there's just so much history to know. Great tech specs. You got the bomber, the German bombers. You got the uniforms. You got everything. And they portray the Baron as a cold-blooded, almost I wouldn't say sadistic, but he enjoys combat, and when he defeats an enemy, it makes him happy. He's like an ancient world man. He's sort of based on kind of like the George Papard guy in the Blue Max. It's kind of like a mix of that. And you have this great footage. You got them bombing trains. You got them taking out Cossacks on the Eastern Front. You got them hanging in the cafe, right? Oh, you got one of those giant guns that you don't like these one-off guns that were made that were just huge pieces. You got remember Enemy Ace? I had mentioned Enemy Ace, and this is similar. The air combat of World War One. These guys had no parachutes. They were literally flying coffins. These guys went at it, and the courage, it was just amazing. And we get the beginning here of the legend. We get him painting it red. The biplane, of course, the triplane hasn't come out yet. And you get a little sub story here where you get the other pilots. They don't like him. And he has a beef with some dude, right? I like the facial expression. Now, is this photo art? Well, I can't be. I mean, you can't just trace photos and put them on. I guess you can't. But nonetheless, it's good artwork here. And, he takes out this dude that tried to kill him, this German pilot, with the cool Luger, right? And right there, look, that's George Papard from the Blue Max. Anyway, now, the reason I bought this was because of this scene. Okay, I'm into tanks, and you get to see the British tank here. You get to see what they wore, because when these things, despite how they look, and despite the effect they had on the Germans were really freaked out by this. The majority of the soldiers, but you had enough soldiers who would do things like, I don't know, like lower the cannon to shoot this thing point blank, or even have the anti-tank rifle, the 50 caliber anti-tank rifle the Germans came out with, that would go through this pretty easy. But what is this mask? Well, this mask is that when the bullets, even a regular bullet hitting the metal, would cause metal on the other side of the rather thin armor, to be frank, to flake off into fragments that would, that could damage your eyes and your face. So these guys wore these kind of weird contraptions, especially if they were by the viewport, so they would not be blinded or disfigured, or both. The other thing about these tanks, at least the early ones, was you had one damn hatch. Now, you have a hatch open here, but it was very hard to get out of these things. And there was 8 guys in these things, and these things went up on fire real easy. And you see this guy here having some of grandpa's medicine, you know, blowing the bits in that coffin on wheels. And off, Sparling, you bloody jinxers. Yeah, well, yeah, I need a drink, and they're all going in there, and you get to see this thing in action. Now, of course, you have one tank because it would be difficult to draw these things, but the British use these in mass, so I guess you got another one there. A lot of these things would just break down. Some of them would never even get to the front. And when they came, but when they did get close, in the range that they were in, they really would do a number on the Germans. You know, it was, yeah, pretty much. But the Red Baron, and this never happened in the war, the Red Baron decided to take out the tank. And this horrible scene here. What happened in those Mark, I think this is the 4, I don't know. They made more hatches later, but they made them because of this. There's a photo I remember. It was a book I had that I lost on the Tank Corps. It was on tanks in general, but it was the British Tank Corps in World War One. A lot of these dudes died, and there's a picture of one of these tanks that got hit, and there's all these black, like a pile of like black stuff, rags, that are seemingly coming out of the hatch, like a pile of. It doesn't look human. Well, obviously that was the crew burning to death with 8 guys trying to get out of one hatch. Fucking war, you know. Anyway, so but you know, I mean he's fighting a submarine, so it's kind of like, you know, it's just I like to see the Germans being shown for what they were in the war, being master soldiers and military people. Rather than just evil demons. Even though he is kind of a sinister figure here, he's just shown to be he's a killer. Right? He's a warrior. He's killing his enemies. And we have finally the biplane becomes the triplane. The iconic, or I guess iconic to guys my age that would remember it. And we got the Zeppelins. Look at this. Zeppelin combat. Now, real quick, I would recommend this, right? If you want to see 2 good movies about World War One aerial combat, there's the Blue Max, right? It's a good film. But there's 2 silent films that you want to see, and you can see them on YouTube for free, right? So I'm not trying to make you guys spend your whatever currency you use. One's called Wings. It's a really good film, and the other one is called Hell's Angels, right? Howard Hughes film, which was originally going to be a silent film and then became a talkie. That is a crazy film. The aerial fight scenes and the stunt flying in that is sick. And actually a couple of guys died filming that film. And Howard Hughes actually got injured really badly doing it. It's just a crazy, crazy film. The Germans are kind of evil bad guys in that, but it doesn't make a difference. It's such an insane film. The scene with the Zeppelin, you know, the older brother, the little brother who's a little bitch, and the older brother who's just like Mr. Stoic. It's just a really good film to see. And Wings also. Okay, all right. So this is recommended, but I'm gonna give a little attention to this. Now I don't really recommend this. I had this from a while back. I had this from back in the 90s when I was far more, well, I would say I'm still open-minded. But, you know, I was a lot different. It was kind of left-wing, I guess you'd say. And this was a interesting comic, Donna Barr. This is the Desert Peach. Now, what the hell is this? Well, apparently in World War II, Erwin Rommel had a younger, very Aryan-looking, flamboyantly gay brother. And it was in the Africa Corps. And it's kind of like a comedy where he doesn't really want to fight. You know, he likes the English, right? Very sophisticated. And he just wants to, you know, like do gay things. You know, and the other character is his orderly, his Batman, as they call him, who is this, he's a half Jewish guy. I forgot what city he's from. He's always very worried that people find out about his half of his origin. And he's sort of like the street guy. Like he's sort of like a streetwise dude, but kind of like the foil, you know. And you have some other characters here, and as you can see, it's drawn very, very. It's very much alternative comics, let's say. So now, why am I looking at this? And I don't recommend it. Well, there's a number of reasons, I guess you'd say. Actually, I would recommend this. This is kind of funny. You got, it's like episodic. The gay brother gets sick and goes insane for temporarily, and actually decides to fight, and they defeat the British, which is something funny because his unit actually is not known for fighting because he always tries to avoid it because it's very unpleasant and dreadful. Right? And there he is, like it being like a psychopath. Then there's a very, very campy one where him and the orderly, they go undercover as dressed up as women, so to find plans or something. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of it is funny. It's very campy. Yeah, like I said, it's not probably not for most of the people I know watching this. Right? And then the other one is interesting too because they're in North Africa, so they get to deal here with the Bedouins, or I guess these are Moroccans perhaps, but marrying off the daughter, the Bedouin culture, the nomadic culture. Maybe these are Tuaregs actually, but they want to marry him off to this guy, and there's a whole little thing here where these dudes are very much about honor. They don't think much of the brother. He's a womanish man. Right? You like the strong camel or the weak camel, they're gonna go for the strong camel. But he is actually a strong character. He's obviously the Donna Bar is not gonna portray him as anything but wonderful. Okay, all right. But now, why did I bring this up? Well, and why do I not recommend it per se? Well, the reason I recommend is actually there's issues of this that came out later that I don't have. I lost them. Where this was the only comic that I remember, okay, that actually showed what happened to the German civilian population near the end of the war, or even in the middle of the war, the end of the war, and after the war. The only comic writer to show the Germans and the suffering they had in those 3 or 4 years or 5 years after the war ended, she was the only person that did that. She was the only comic person or of note to do those stories that were really, really sad. The orderly dude, he ends up going to the Soviet Union and working for like 6 years in the damn, in the mines and the gulags, and comes back all fucked up. And you see how people in Germany were starved. And just a lot of, it was really a really depressing ending to this, because how the hell is World War II going to end, for Germany, whatever you think of it. So that was something I will never forget. Unfortunately, I don't follow her now. My sensibilities are far different, but she's a very, very, very modern woke leftist now. She was a lot more nuanced in the 90s here, but now she seems to be pretty much like the patriarchy, blah, 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 whose lives matter, all that stuff, which is kind of disappointing. And I almost wonder if it's the passage of time. I don't know if perhaps even the portrayal of this flamboyantly gay, good-hearted dude is maybe offensive now, considered offensive now to the modern SJW mindset, or even the fact that she dared to portray the Germans, because the Germans are basically, it's from their point of view in all these stories. She dared to portray the Germans in World War II as human beings, with humor and everything, and also some really horrible things that happened to occupied Germany. I'm wondering if that's sort of, I can't be in the mind of somebody, but I'm wondering if that's part of it, why the embracing of the wokeness is what I see from her. So I really probably wouldn't recommend this, but I will always give this woman credit for showing what no one ever showed about what happened to the people of Germany during and after the war. But I do recommend this. Okay, Comics of the Losers. Well, we're all the losers now after this year, aren't we? Yeah. The game ain't over though. All right, later.